Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, my beloved audience. Today I have a honorable guest, Madam Amal Wahdan, Ph.D. Good evening, Madam.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me, Brother Muhammad.
Okay, my beloved audience. Today we have a very special subject that we have to discuss because nowadays we show on many media and any kind of platform that what we call it is the last pass of the genocide in Gaza. So this case is very terrible for our humanity in every level, whether you are as a diplomat, a student, a common people, politician, whatever you are, you have an very what we call a common or universal humanism. So to talk about Gaza, actually, no question at all. It is not. If we say that it is not a genocide, it is of course it is genocide, and it is has a root a long history of occupation. Now, Madam Amal will talk about what happened in Gaza, but not in Gaza because we know that separated into three, I think, yes, in 1967, East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza. So maybe Madam Amal Wahdan could elaborate very shortly the history of the East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza, because nowadays in Indonesian public that some Muslim figure have ever traveled and do ziarah to Masjid al-Aqsa and talk to the Indonesian audience that there is no happen in Palestine. They said that Israel soldiers treat them very well. It seemed like their statement against the common public opinion. Okay, we start from right now, Madam Amal Wahdan. Could you tell me your situation in East Jerusalem or West Bank compared to Gaza, please?
Yes. Um, uh, the thing is, when we talk about the situation in Jerusalem, occupied Jerusalem, and we talk about the whole of Jerusalem, which was occupied in 1948 and in 1967, the rest of Jerusalem, including the old city, the holy city of Jerusalem, was occupied by the Israeli colonial regime. And of course, the West Bank, Gaza Strip, the Sinai desert of Egypt, the Golan Height of the Arab Syrian Republic was also occupied. So we are talking about a colonial entity that was planted by the old colonial powers. First, the United Kingdom, and then the United States, but together they still compound unified power in deciding the fate of occupied Palestine. So when we talk about Jerusalem, which was occupied in 1967, we can see that several steps took place to make this occupation eternal, to make all of Jerusalem as a capital for the Israeli state. And this means that they have to do legislative orders, military orders, confiscation of land, building settlements. Today, Jerusalem is enclaved with huge settlements that can extend about 15 kilometers from the center of Jerusalem. Or if we want to make the old city as the center of Jerusalem, it's like 15 kilometers diameter diameter around Jerusalem that is totally filled with settlements. We have the settlement of Gilo. We have the settlement of Zaif. To the east, we have the settlement in the north of Jerusalem. They turned the names of the villages and the towns into Hebrew names. So they Hebrewnized the names of settlements to make it look like an extension of their history in this area. And this is another subject that we can talk about it later on, how they fool the public opinion about their relation to the land here. So we are talking about a Jerusalem that was stripped from its Arab, Islamic, and Christian identity and turned into the hands of an occupier who believes that God gave him the power as a chosen people to this land. In order to make this happen, they have to make the lives of the people of Jerusalem like hell. For example, when we talk about daily life of people in Jerusalem, they are encountered with checkposts all around the old city. If you want to enter the old city, there is like 5 gates out of 17 gates are opened to the public. There are people, of course, who are living inside the old city, Palestinians, and there are Armenians in the Armenian quarter. There are the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, and the Jewish quarter. So they divided Jerusalem into these 4 quarters, and they control it all. They control the movement of the people, and the Palestinians cannot. When I talk about Palestinians, I talk about the Muslims and the Christians in the old city, because, you know, we have lots of churches as well. In addition to Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, we have lots of churches. And life before the occupation was harmonious. People are coming in and out to Jerusalem with no problem. But after the occupation, it has to be under their control. It has to be under their measures. So they have introduced several laws, make it like a de facto. First, unifying West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem. So we don't actually recognize that there is West and East Jerusalem. West Jerusalem is the part that was occupied in 1948. East Jerusalem is the part that was occupied in 1967. So the first thing they did is they unified Jerusalem, East and West, and they had one municipality under their control. So all the laws that are brought into their parliament, they make it according to their occupation targets. Schools curriculum. There is no such thing as government schools for Palestinians except those schools that have Israeli curriculum. The Palestinians have to create their own schools. And these schools, like private schools, but they work according to the Palestinian curriculum. And this also introduced lots of problems for the Palestinians, because the Israelis can censor any subject in any of the curriculum according to their politics and according to their targets. Now, for the rest of the people outside of Jerusalem, Palestinians outside of Jerusalem, new situation was created after the first Intifada, which is 1987. After 1987 and on, they blocked Jerusalem with a checkpost, military checkpost, which means Palestinians in the south cannot enter Jerusalem unless they have permissions. No, not
Mm.
anybody can enter Jerusalem. For example, I cannot enter Jerusalem. So whoever enters Jerusalem has to have a special permission. Any former prisoners, and I was a former prisoner, cannot enter Jerusalem. Anybody who is active, politically active, cannot enter Jerusalem. Nowadays, after October 7, no one is given any permission to enter Jerusalem. And as
Mm.
I said, the life for the Palestinians is becoming miserable. Palestinians in the old city cannot build, cannot even enhance their houses within the old city. The Israelis prohibited this. The Israelis prevent Palestinians from enhancing their homes. And if they want to move outside Jerusalem, because people increase, the number of inhabitants
Mm.
increased, and Palestinians number had increased uh, every year tremendously. So they have to move outside. The new generation has to move outside of Jerusalem. But in order also to build a new home outside the old city, also they have to take a permission and a building permission, and this costs up
Mm.
to $500,000 in order to take only a permission. So we have a chaotic situation. Most people moved to an area called no man's land, which
Mm.
means that Palestinian Authority has no control on it, and the Israelis take taxes from them, like property taxes and other sorts of taxes, but they don't give them services. It's like refugee camps. People are piling, buildings are piling on top of each other, and no services. They pay taxes, but they don't get services. So the situation in Jerusalem is very difficult to live for Palestinians. And it's not easy for the West Bankers to get into Jerusalem, and now it's totally blocked. According to the Israelis, they try to show the whole world that as a democracy, they are
Okay.
open to
Okay.
all
Amal,
religions.
madam. Wait a minute. Before we are talking about the international politics, let me review first. Okay. I think you would like to say from the history that the apartheid system, yeah, used by Israel since 1948, not since 1967. The proof is number one, segregation wall, settlement, and I think checkpoint. Okay, and other thing
Mhm.
is make it divided area. So we know about the politics.
Bantostan, we call them.
Yeah, divided at impera, divided and impera, divided at impera. So it is a kind of a politic applied not only in Palestine homeland but other region like Indonesia, divide at impera. So the first thing is divided the people and divided the area, and then they control it. So this is a kind of common, yeah, common colonial project.
Of
So
course.
I want to elaborate more. Yeah, first about identity. You say that in inside of West Bank, inside the East Jerusalem, other area, there are three religion at least. Yeah, Jews, Muslim, and Christian. So
Mhm.
the Muslim here is in the beginning is majority and divided into the one. I think 58% for Jews. Yeah, 48% for Palestine. But two state that promised by United Nations is no, not in reality, not manifest until today. But and now on 1967. So during 1948 until 1967, I think it's well planned for in the perspective of Israel and the supporter that they want eradicate, they want expel all Palestinians from their homeland. That's their plan. From the
Yes.
area, they have no limited border in this in that constitution. There is no very definited area which one become definited Israel territory. So I want to talk about diplomacy now. Now, I think become a trap when we say about the solution. First, one state solution, and two-state solution. Seem like two-state solution. It seem like we have to accept, yeah, agreement 1967 that justify, yeah, three area, yeah, East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza right now. So and your perspective, yeah, of course, you are maybe very, very sad about two-state solution because two-state solution until now not happen. Since 1948 until 1967 until now, there is no two-state solution because two-state solution itself, for in Israel perspective, is I think a bluff. It's empty rhetoric, not happen, not manifest in reality, isn't it? So I think
So
you are
true.
in the solution or in the mind of the two one state solution because of the reality, isn't it? So my question is, in the context of diplomacy, yeah, there are two options right now, yeah, because Gaza people will be the genocide, maybe West Bank too. The people of Palestine, no choice at all. They would be have to, yeah. They expel into Sinai, yeah, the city of Sinai. It's called the city of Sinai, and United States want to build a military port. Is it right? So
So
from
yeah.
the perspective one state solution, and there is axis of resistance and the international politics. So what make you still have a hope that Palestine become a real state actually? Please tell me.
Right. Let's say that the Zionist project, which started over a century ago, like 1897, when they had their congress, their first congress as Zionist movement in Basel, Switzerland. From that time until now, the Zionist project is going on with the same tactics, except that it develops according, now we have technology, we have social media, we have different tools and ways. Before it wasn't like this, but the what was known as Zionist militia groups like the Haganah, the Irgun, Stern, it's terrorist groups that was massacring the Palestinian people. These militia groups, terrorist groups, formed what we know today as the Israeli Defense Army, the IDF. It's not a defense, it's offense. Always it was on the offense side. So their roots are coming from the Zionist terrorist groups, and continue to be, because the Zionist ideology, was created and was nurtured by
Mm,
the old colonial powers, by the UK and then the US, because the location of Palestine is very feasible
mm.
for the colonial powers in the past and now. It's in the middle of the world. It's a corridor between the Europe and
Asia.
West Asia and
Mm,
East Asia, etc., etc. But um, after 1948, after the partition plan you talked about, 56 for the Israelis, who were only constitute 5% of the population. The majority were Palestinians. So even that, because the colonial powers wanted a stronghold here, they didn't mind giving the Jewish people much more than the Palestinians. And actually, after 2-3 years since 1948, when they declared their state, 15 of May 1948, until 1955, they continued to seize more land. For example, let me tell you about Gaza, because we are experiencing a new genocide there. It happened in 1948 when they kicked out 900,000 Palestinians from Palestine, from their villages outside the country. They burned or destroyed 1,675 villages and city quarters in 1948 and kicked the population, 900,000 people, outside their lands. They are thinking, or they started to do the same in 1967. And now in Gaza, what happened is that the Palestinians, who are 2.3 million people, came from 45 villages, destroyed villages in the north, and around 15 villages in the east side. They took another 1 million, more than 1 million dunums of land from the Gazan people and pushed them into 365 square kilometers. This little tiny place, it's the most condensed, most populated areas on earth. You can't
Yes,
squeeze
yes,
in.
Amal. Uh, uh, let's
I'm
talk
talking
about diplomacy.
diplomacy.
Let's talk
Yes.
about diplomacy. Okay.
About diplomacy, first,
Mm,
partition plan. Partition plan, they took more than they deserve, and they continued to seize more land. We come to
mm,
1967 war. They won. They were the ones who started this war, and they didn't only succeed. They didn't succeed to occupy the Palestinian land, but also occupied part of Egypt and part of Syria. And up until now, when we talk about the current situation, Palestinians are only on 10% of their historic land. And they
yeah.
are talking, and they were talking 30 years back about the peace process, about the two-state solution. What is this two-state solution that
Mm,
we Palestinians, which we consist now of almost same number? If we want to talk about the immigrants, the opposite immigrants, people, Jewish and Israelis who are
mm,
leaving the country outside, there's 1 million people who left Israel, between brackets, outside after October 7th, because they cannot live with no security as
mm,
they imagined. They were brought in for security and prosperity and peace. If they lose peace and security, there is no prosperity.
yes.
All their businesses is damaged. So now they want to convince the whole world that this peace process and two-state solution is viable,
Mm,
although Netanyahu and his group are saying there is no Palestine, there is no future for
mm,
Palestinians. So what do they want in real life? They occupy all of Palestine. We cannot move
mm.
from one area in the West Bank. I am on the northern border of
Okay.
Jerusalem. I
Amal. Let me say. Let me say. Okay. I know. I know your feeling to be occupied. Okay. We are occupied. Yeah. 350 years. We know about the occupation. Okay. It seems like we know that the word, yeah, the word have to follow two-state solution, but in the fact, Israel is give a statement that there is no Palestinian state. It is paradoxical.
Yes.
Okay, let
Yes.
let me imagine. I'm Indonesian. I want to go to mosque, Masjid Al Aqsa. Okay, the moment I go to Masjid Al Aqsa, have to stamp to the Israel authority. It's meaning that I have to admit that the entity of Israel is exists. So often
Yes.
it's kind of trap. I have a political view that it is an occupation. At least for Indonesian constitution, Israel entity is occupation, occupier. But the moment Indonesian citizen like me want to go to Masjid Al Aqsa, admitted by what I say by trap. Okay,
Of course.
it is
Yes, of course.
paradoxical. It is
Yes,
paradoxical.
yes. You think that you are coming to
But for
liberate
you,
the
for
Palestinian
Muslim,
state.
yeah, but for you for Palestinian Muslim that live inside of West Bank, inside East Jerusalem, have to leave. It is
Yes,
very difficult. You cannot
of
say that
course.
Israel state is non. It doesn't exist. It is exists. It is
Of course,
exists. The
the
Jew.
occupation, yes, the
Mm.
occupation is existing everywhere and every
So,
day of
so
our lives.
for aside, if I want to help you, how can I help you? The Indonesian people want to help you, so they have to go to do ziarah. The moment they do ziarah, the news will say that oh, in the West Bank is okay, in Masjid Al Aqsa is okay. They treat well for Indonesians, something like that.
No,
So
I don't think this is true for
okay,
the majority of the people. The moment they enter the
okay,
airport and the Jordan Palestinian border, they enter a system of surveillance, a system of
mm,
security, a system of hegemony, I can say. They don't like Muslims. They
mm,
anywhere on the, and now it becomes intensifying.
mm,
Actually, since the Islamic resistance in Palestine, like Al Jihad Islami, Hamas, and they hate Muslims out of because of these resistance groups, and we have also another Islamic group in the north, and now comes the Yemen. So Islam for them, Islamophobia now. It becomes something that
mm.
they can, steer the fear of the people.
Yeah,
That these Muslims want to get rid of the Jews, of the Jewish people between brackets. But what can we all do? First of all, we have to expose this colonial system. It's like the U.S. It's a tool that is used by the US. We call it military base for the US. They do whatever the US wants them to do. Now, the US can call for a ceasefire, and the Israelis can shut up. If the Americans want a ceasefire, they can have it. They can have
mm,
it in 1 hour. They can call for it and have it. But because it's in their interest to get rid of the Palestinian people. There is a project, a huge project, we're talking about now geopolitics, okay?
mm.
The facts on the ground tells us that we have,
Amal, I challenge. I want to challenge to ask you. Okay, I want to challenge ask you. Uh,
but
you
last sentence,
okay?
there is
One.
gas
Mm,
and oil in the Mediterranean of Gaza shores, um, beach waters. And there is one that is occupied by the Israel. It's called Etimar Field. We are rich in oil and gas, and the Americans are after that. The route that they call it, the alternative route: India, United Arab Emirates, Saudi
mm,
Arabia, Jordan,
mm,
up until Gaza. They want to confront the Russian Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2, and they want to confront the Chinese, the road and the belt and the road, the
mm,
initiative that is
mm,
going on in different continents now. So this is a huge project, and it happened. that the Palestinians are in the encountering this hegemonic, aggressive war by the
Okay.
bodies of the kids.
Okay, Amal, I know. If we are talking about the border contact, it would be colonial project not only inside of Palestine, of course
Of
outside of Palestine, Middle East contact, Ukraine
course.
contact, and of course Taiwan contact. I want to ask you. This is the last question. I think you have an option, just one option, one democratic solution for three religion. But is it impossible without axis of resistance?
No, of course not. The initiative, the One Democratic State of Palestine initiative, is based on resistance and is based on the axis of the resistance. Without the axis of the resistance, we cannot achieve this democratic state. Why? Because the Israelis are
Mm,
backed by the US and they are militarized by the US. You know, like 250 a fleet of
mm.
flights arrived with arms aid to the Israelis, large vehicles to the Israelis. If we don't have power, why do you think the Israelis are so angry? Why they have this bitterness? Because October 7 disrupted their plans. Their plans was to offend, was to attack Hamas and to dismantle it and to
Mm.
take over Gaza in order for this route to
But
come
the
from
fact otherwise, but the fact that otherwise,
the
mm,
fact that
otherwise.
Hamas knew that there is something was on the plans, and they disrupted this
Mm.
plan, and they flipped
Okay.
the table over.
Okay, Amal. I think you have many stories to talk about your problem. Very complicated, and we can expand to a Middle East project. So of course, more interested. But for this segment, I have to say to stop this discussion. Maybe in another segment we can talk about what we say a Middle East project. Okay. Thank you,
Right.
Amal. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Thanks for having
Assalamualaikum.
me,
Bye
and
bye.
salam alaikum la all audience. Bye bye.